broken sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yes. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move, there ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind. And when I spaced out, I see the possibilities unfolding the way that I want. That you showed up was written in the palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You cut me loose. You make me win in every way. Win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yes. 'Cause I'm the winner, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah.
Hello, LinkedIn. We're live on Twitter too and YouTube, but LinkedIn is primarily where our audience is. So hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I've had some people pop in the studio and I know some people are in there, so we're gonna get to you, I promise. But first, let me introduce Gordana. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a huge honor to sit here with you, even though we're on the opposite sides of the world, but it's so amazing.
It's an honor to have you. You know, when in October it was Women in Sales Month, and when you shared just your thoughts on the bro culture, I was like, that's really positive and interesting, and I needed to have you on, because I always like to find like people I don't know and just say, hey, come on LinkedIn Live and let's talk about your thoughts. So
it's fantastic. Actually, I mean, I connected with you, obviously that's amazing, but I actually connected with so many people just from that one post. It's incredible. So I have these amazing new connections, mostly amazing women who are doing amazing things. How many times am I going to say amazing? With their careers. So it's such an honor to be kind of just included in a conversation with them. So yeah, the Women in Sales Month was a fantastic idea. And thank you, Brooklyn, very much for organizing that.
Yeah.
It's
I do want to talk more about the post, but since we have so many people, it's just sort of waiting on us like to join. Let's talk to one of them. Jarvis, hello. Can you share your camera with us if you're going to join us live? Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I am not camera presentable today, but I'm very glad to be here.
Hi.
Well, I'm glad you hopped in. Did you have a question or a thought you wanted to share?
No, I was just actually looking for, best practices for folks who are, maybe experiencing these types of cultures for the first time, or, because I think there's a lot of folks who might be like younger in organizations who don't know how to pick up on things that are, symptomatic of bro culture and could be misinterpreting them as other things. So yeah, I'm just kind of excited to be here and learn.
Yeah. And the first time I was in a bro culture, right? I didn't recognize it right away. How about you, Gordana? Did you recognize?
Yeah, no, I just thought it was something normal. I was very young at the time. I just thought, oh, I guess this is how the world works. You just have to take it. Definitely, it took a lot of years until I realized, like, hey, this is, actually not that cool. And you're not supposed to talk to me that way. So
yeah. Well, the irony for me, I was coming from the cigar industry.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I'm coming from the cigar industry with older gentlemen and like a different sort of environment into tech and experiencing sort of that younger version, which was, different. It was different and surprising, right? And so like recognizing sort of the signs of being excluded or not necessarily getting as much time in meetings or
having your ideas stolen.
Oh my goodness.
By your boss. Always the great one.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I have an author joining me in December from who wrote the book Machiavelli for Women. And there are some wonderful tips in that book for that, because there's the practical advice that you go out there where people kind of tell you what to do that while maybe satisfying in the moments of like claim your space and things like that, but then there's the advice that actually works to like leave a longer term impression and not hurt any feelings or to be a little bit more softer in your approach. So for like an idea jacking, right, where you share an idea and then someone comes in a little bit later and rewords the same idea. I've had it so many times like at industry events. I've had it, right? Rather than saying, hey, maybe I already said that, say adding to that thought. Like, oh yeah, when I said that earlier, I was also thinking about this. Like you're claiming the idea, but you're also expanding upon it. So then now you're adding value as opposed to just saying, hey, that was mine, buddy. Right?
Yeah. Even though you kind of want to do it.
Which is a tip I got from that book, which I thought was pretty amazing. Jarvis, thanks so much for posing the question. I'm going to go see who else we've got who's joining us. And Gordana, when we come back, we'll have to have you share any thoughts you had as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right. So, Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Are we here? Hi. I love it when they share camera. Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I'm all bundled up. It's already snowing in Wisconsin, so keeping it toasty.
Well, thank you so much for hopping in. Did you have a question or a comment you wanted to share?
Well, I was really hoping to listen and kind of, I thought it was more of a presentation style, but I've definitely been in that male culture, male world in sales for a long time. And I didn't have for the longest time words to put with it. I couldn't quite put my finger on it for the longest time. I often called it like the frat house mentality of starting every meeting talking about sports, ping pong tournaments, which are all fun, or, your big motivational speaker at your meeting, always a sports related person, which I know men and women love sports, but I just could not put my finger on it. So now it's kind of resonating, that bro culture, that male culture, and always looking for ways to try to help support other people and build other women up, and making sure everybody has space to communicate and say their part.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for hopping in. We're going to continue the conversation, but I'm going to let you go now. We do this. So I do live, right? And you can interact in the chat, which I love. You know, we take questions that way. But talking about inclusion, right? Why do I get to have LinkedIn Live and not it? Like, why do I get to have it? Like, I, of course, applied and they accepted me, which I was very grateful for. But, you know, everyone should have an opportunity if they want to go live, you know, that they should go live, right? And why do only some people get it? And are the percentage of people who get live, how many are women or how many are men? How many are, you know, non-binary? How many are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought. I never actually thought about it like that. I wasn't very familiar with the process of getting a LinkedIn Live, so this is kind of new for me. But exactly, we should think about that, you know. And I feel like LinkedIn, as much as I love it, it's kind of like a bubble. It's very easy to just get stuck in that bubble of very kind of people who think pretty much the same way as you do, and you rarely get to see outside perspectives if you're not actively looking and like searching for different opinions, different people. You know, I live in a very small country. There's zero diversity here. It's basically just white people only, and only one nationality, pretty much. So that is inclusion, and you know, diversity is never even a conversation here. So a lot of people are not even aware of the issues that we're talking about today, because it's just normal. You know, you're in this male-dominated space, not even industry, or it's just the whole country is like that, and no one is talking about it, and no one is helping women, you know, start businesses or actually start LinkedIn Lives or anything else, and just talk about their experiences. And no one is helping them recognize that they are stuck in this bro world and frat house mentality, whatever we want to call it. But we really should, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to know, but you know, in the same respect, if you're in an environment and maybe it's a little broy, right? If you're not bothered by it, then does it really matter, right?
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Have more inclusion, yes. But there are plenty of people out there that go into a bro type culture who are okay with it, and that's totally, you know, that's totally their perspective, and that's great, right?
I mean, it's their rights. If they like it, that's cool,
right? Well,
but
you gotta leave room. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. My thoughts are, you know, maybe someone, for example, as much as I didn't know that this was an issue when I was younger, and I thought like, okay, I guess it is what it is, you know, it's just the way the world works, and you kind of have to get used to it. I guarantee that there are a lot more women who are just not aware that things could be different. And so I always feel like this raging feminist when I talk about these things, and they're like, oh, you always talk about, like, you know, women's rights and rights in the workplace and all of that. But it is really, really important to talk about those things and kind of fight the bro culture. Even though it might work for some people, I believe that it does not work for most people. You know, it works for the guys, the boys. There are a lot of amazing guys out there. I mean, I work with two phenomenal men. I really adore both of them. And, you know, they never exhibited such behavior, but I just think that's a minority. You know, that most of these big tech bros are actually tech bros. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about some best practices around, you know, the question was identifying, but I would say, you know, in general, everywhere, right? Making sure that you give people space.
Yeah.
that if you're going around like a room, right, and everyone's
Mm-hmm.
sharing an idea, that everyone have the same opportunity to share.
Yes.
That
Yes,
if you're going
exactly.
to happy hour or you're doing something that only a portion of the team can go to,
Mm-hmm.
that you plan something else, that you plan something that everyone can go to, right?
Yeah.
The classic happy hours of, the moms who have kids at home can't make it to, right?
Yeah.
Yet suddenly, you come back and you find out the accounts were then changed up at happy hour, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Why was I not included in
What?
that?
What do you mean? What happened right there? Or,
Yeah.
the classic, oh, we didn't invite you to happy hour because we knew you couldn't make it,
Yeah. How do you know? Did you ask me? I mean, yeah,
right?
it's yeah, it's a big, big, big conversation. But then again, you know, I feel like a lot of people who are not in that situation, let's take happy hour as an example, we kind of downplay the whole situation, be like, oh, like it's not my problem that you have kids, and it's not my problem that you have a family. So why should I change my behavior? But that is exactly why, you need to be aware of your coworkers and just people around you, and kind of be accommodating to everyone if you want to be a good manager, or just a good coworker, to be completely honest, because it doesn't have to just be managers. um, so yeah, thinking about that, I think it has to come from the top as well.
Yeah.
If your CEO is a big bro, and he's not going to care. So and I believe it would be very, very hard to change their minds. Maybe I'm a little bit negative, but
Well,
I just,
there was a
unfortunately,
there was a
sorry, did you?
quote out there that if, you know, that to people who haven't experienced exclusion, sometimes inclusion,
Mm,
feels like, it's
like
exclusion to
oppression.
them
Yeah,
suddenly, right?
yeah.
Just like my daughter, when she was an only child and we sent her to the preschool the very first time, and
Hmm.
she saw all the toys and she dug right in, right? She's playing with all the toys and she's like, they're all mine, right? And the
Hmm.
other little kids, and they're like, what? You got to share. She's like, what? At home? Like, I got all the toys. What do you mean share? Because to her, this concept of sharing was brand new. She didn't have any cousins. She didn't have any siblings. She's like,
Hmm.
share?
Yeah, like
Nobody got
what are you
time for
talking
that,
about? Yeah.
right? And so to her, the idea of sharing, or that she needed to include other people, or that the toys weren't just hers,
Hmm.
that she had to make space, was this, you're taking something from me, as
Yeah.
opposed to sharing is good for everybody, right? And so that's
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
I think about it. So not comparing the bro culture to little kids, but just saying if
I mean,
they have a sense of, entitlement, or that
yeah.
they get all of this, right?
Hmm.
And they now can't meet for happy hour because some of the team can't,
Hmm.
then that might, they could still go to a happy hour. They could even bring a friend.
Yeah.
It's just not it's just different if it's a company thing and you're talking about account management at that happy hour and doing mentorship.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Just use it for fun, not for work, I guess. But also, it's,
uh, our video
oh,
is
are we
frozen.
frozen? Oh no.
No. Well,
Oof.
we will continue the conversation. Maybe it'll come back up. Maybe it won't.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Christina says, I see you. Might be unstuck now.
Yeah,
Thank you,
but
Christina.
she's in our chat. Her device isn't connected. I can't add her to the conversation because even
Oh,
though she's in the StreamYard, her device isn't connected, so it won't let me
uh-huh.
add her to the
Oh,
conversation. Sorry, Christina.
sorry.
I would love to have you in the conversation, totally. So maybe I'm live,
you.
maybe we're live, maybe we're frozen. I don't know, but we're streaming to 3 channels. So
Yeah, let's just roll with it.
even if we're frozen on LinkedIn, we could still be live
Yeah.
someplace else, and that's the beauty of live.
Yeah, you never know where you're gonna end up.
And I wonder if my video intro at the beginning was too long. You know, I experienced this delay thing so often that I was like, you know what? I need a buffer for my delay. But maybe that was too much. I don't know.
No, I
went
really
all
liked
in.
it. It's very. I did a little dance to it. It was very catchy. The song is amazing. Loved it.
Well,
Definitely not
thank
too
you. I
long.
appreciate that.
It's
So, what
amazing.
other tips would you have for folks experiencing the bro culture?
Yeah, so I guess number one is even though it's gonna go against everything that I'm preaching, but try not to be too aggressive with your opinions, even though obviously it's completely valid that you're disappointed and not very happy with the situation you're in. Because I feel that people have this tendency to think of women as very emotional, even though I actually kind of disagree with that. I think it's the other way around. I mean, we should all be emotional. We should not be robots. So that's number one. But just, if you see that you are not being included in the conversation, or that you feel uncomfortable with something, obviously if it's something serious, that's an HR issue that should be dealt with immediately. But the idea stealing, the snarky comments, all of that, I would sit down, write it out for myself, which I did this in the past, just wrote essays and essays of thoughts and little thesis statements and all of that, and try to present it in a very calm manner, in a one-on-one meeting maybe, and then possibly in front of a whole team afterwards, just without calling people out and saying like, you are making me feel uncomfortable, and what you are doing is so wrong, and I hate it, and you're the worst. Because people tend to get very defensive, which I guess it's normal. But just to avoid that, try to be a little bit subtle and kind of sneaky about it. Sounds so wrong, but for me, that's kind of the only thing that worked. When I was very direct, it never worked. It was just like, oh,
Well,
you're being too.
And it depends on where you are, right? Do you have the
It does,
psychological safety to be able to discuss it with your leader? If you do not have the psychological safety to be able to have that conversation with your leader, then you really need to evaluate whether that space is for you, and whether you could be better served by finding a space that will allow you to really thrive. Now, having said that, sometimes finding a new space is hard, and you're there, right? You're there, and you have to just roll with it, right? And if you're there and you just have to roll with it, how are you going to overcome it? Well, sometimes separating yourself from like the outcome and what's going on with you and in that environment is important. Making sure that you're protecting your emotional health, right, is super important, and that you're giving yourself space, right, and that you're not making yourself crazy. I mean, there were times in my life where I used to wake up in the middle of the night and walk my neighborhood, going all the things, like just running through my head all the things I should have said, could have said, would have said, except I didn't think about any of those things in the moment, and I was just shocked, and I don't know why I was so shocked, and why can't I be better prepared for these scenarios when they're actually happening in the exact moment? And it's really easy to beat yourself up.
It is. I totally understand how you feel. Actually, the way I quit my last job was very much abrupt because of all of these things. And, I pretty much did the same thing, just waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, oh my God, like, why didn't I say this? And why am I even taking this? What's wrong with me? I can do something else. it's very, very hard to leave sometimes. You don't have other options, especially if you have a family. I mean, I don't, so I don't know what that's like, but I can just imagine if you're a mom, and especially if you're a single mom, you don't really have the luxury of just walking away and saying, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to find something else." I did that, but I was like 27 or whatever, single girl living alone. So I could do it. So I do really, really sympathize with people going through all of these things. And I don't want to preach and say, oh, I have the solution for everything, because I really don't. Everyone's situation is different. But I feel just documenting what's happening to you and kind of strategizing, okay, this happened, I should have said that, I didn't. Let's think about next time this happens. I can stand my ground, and I'm going to protect myself from these comments and these people, if it's a very toxic culture, obviously.
Mhm.
And just find a way to get out of that situation safely, so you're not branded with some crazy brand of shame or whatever, because people tend to also do that.
Well, yeah,
And
there's
just
the
have a clean exit if possible. But
mhm.
it is tough. Like, unfortunately, there is no one size fits all solution.
There
It's
isn't.
all a case to case basis. So
And that's
yeah.
why it's so important to find a tribe of people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
people, mentors, communities of
Yes.
like-minded people, because women are awesome at sales.
They
They're awesome
are.
in tech,
Yeah. They
right?
really
They're
are.
awesome. And so there is a huge potential for great amount of income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you could just find your way, then everything will be okay. But you have to find the places that are for you, where you can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it won't be fun getting there.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're protecting yourself, your emotional health, but also that you're, not burning any bridges, but giving people space and
Mm-hmm.
being measured in your communication, so that you're not reacting, because at the end of the day, you're in charge of your own reactions.
True. Yeah.
And
Very hard
not
to regulate
everything is
sometimes.
going to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in that moment, reacting may not serve your career,
Yeah.
but doing something will. And that's why it's so important that you find your people. If you need
Yeah.
people, you can reach out to me. I could be your people.
Yes.
Gordana,
Perfect
Gordana could be your
people.
people. We could be your people,
Please reach
and
out.
we'll talk it through. And then you can yell at me and say all the things you would have said, because I
That's actually
know,
a very good
I know it.
idea. Yeah.
I know. I
Just
call a
practice with
friend.
someone who's
Like,
been through it. Yeah. It's
yep,
actually fantastic.
we could strategize on what steps you could take to actually get your desired result. Because just like in sales, right? You strategize in an account,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are we going to say? Why are we going to say it? What are they going to say back? What are we going to say? What's our rebuttal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing when you go into a conversation about a place where there isn't inclusion.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to sort of do your strategy. Who's going to be the best person to talk to about this? Who is going to be the most receptive to your message? Who is going to, what might convince them? Do you need some
Mm-hmm.
data? You need some specific stories. It's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing in sales.
Yeah. I feel like right now, like this time that we live in, it's kind of, those people who start the generational wealth, and their heirs and their heirs are having this amazing life, and they love it. They go on yachts all the time, and they own 50 of them. But the person who started the generational wealth had to work really, really hard to provide that for their family. And I really feel that right now, in this stage, we are that person starting the generational wealth, and actually making sure that we are inclusive, and that we don't even have to have these conversations, let's say 10 years from now, that it's just normal to just have a very diverse workplace, to include everyone, to not have to even discuss these issues. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. So it is very important for people who got out of it and who have any kind of experience with it, what you said, to build a community and to help others also get out of there and find something that works for them, so we can one day just never talk about these things ever. We are probably going to be very old, but maybe our kids, maybe your daughter, it's just going to be a normal thing,
I certainly hope so, right? That by the time my daughter enters the workforce, that we have more inclusive environments where she can thrive and do everything she wants to do with her life.
Yeah, I really, really hope so.
Well, we're at 1:30. Didn't that
oh
fly?
my God. Yeah, it was so fast.
I told you.
Yeah,
I told you. I don't know whether this actually worked live or not on LinkedIn. We'll have to check it out. But I'll also check Twitter and YouTube, see where it actually worked. Either way, it doesn't matter. I've got a recording of it. We could always put it up. It's no big deal.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for joining me. I think this was a fun conversation. Hopefully folks found it useful.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited, and still am. Still kind of nervous, but it was so fun, so fun. And thank you everyone for asking questions and just being here. It's fantastic getting to know everyone. And add me on LinkedIn. I want to be friends, please.
Yeah. And we should all be growing our networks, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Inspiring women who can support us and who we could call and give all the yell at and say all the things you would have said in that moment, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone. Hopefully this went live, but if not, it'll make it here somewhere. And next week I've got Joyce Johnson joining me. Once I figure out what the problem was, I can make sure that doesn't happen next week. And we're going to be talking about protecting your emotional health. So like almost a continuation of this conversation. So that's very
well, I have a few questions, so I'll definitely tune in and just ask a couple of things. So I can't wait.
All right.
It's going to be amazing.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to end the broadcast.